Welcome back to the Snatch Chat podcast. This is episode 26. I have decided to do this probably on one of the flipping hottest days. I am in this office sweating my tits off, but we have 8 questions. We're going to get through it. Let's go. So question 1, which leg should go back in the split jerk? And how do I actually figure out what's right for me? So I think when it comes to anything in the Olympic lifts, I don't necessarily think there's it's black and white. There's not sort of one size fits all. And I think there's this grey area that we sort of work towards, and then we'll sort of deviate against what sort of is better for that individual. Now, in the split jerk, I would always say that you want your strongest leg, your most dominant leg, to be the back leg. So if I gave you a football, whichever leg you would kick that ball with is going to be your back leg. Now, the reason why I think your strongest, your most dominant leg wants to be the back leg is because there's a higher chance of you sitting back. Now, if your strong or dominant leg is the front leg, what you'll find is that you want to sit onto it and you'll end up leaning forwards onto it. As soon as then that weight is forwards, the bar tracks forwards, there's a higher chance of losing that bar. So that is on a rough scale of what we want to try and go by. But again, individually, we might have, or it might start to deviate a little bit. Question number 2. In the snatch, I can feel the bar swinging away from me in the second pull. What's causing that? Now, for those that don't know, the second pull is that middle section of the lift. So it's when we've just come above the knee and we're bringing that bar into our hip crease. So this person is saying that the bar is swinging away from them in that second pull. So I'm assuming what is happening here is that it's probably happening before you actually get into that second pull. Often what you'll find is that as someone starts that lift, they're trying to lift their shoulders back too soon. They lift their shoulders back, their knees push forwards. And as their knees push forwards, the bar is going to then come away from them. That's when you'll start to see that bar wants to swing. It's coming away from the center of mass before then it's driven back in. And because it's further away, we're having to then overarch through that second pull, often then shooting those hips forwards. If your hips shoot forwards, the bar then tracks forwards, the whole lift is off. So it's sometimes it's good to actually film the lift from a side angle. And what you want to see in that first pull, so moving the bar from the floor to just above the knee, we ideally want to try and see that bar moving as close to a vertical line as possible. We don't want to see it coming forwards. So this is where you're going to think about pushing through the midfoot and allowing those knees to sort of pull back ever so slightly so you can maintain that straight line. And we are not going to change our back angle until we are past the knee. If we change our back angle too soon, that's when the knees track forwards, the bar comes away from us, and then we're having to fight it for the rest of that lift. We want to try and get that bar moving as close to a vertical line as possible. Flipping it, they're all technique questions so far. So question number 3, my clean keeps landing too low on my shoulders and crushing me in the rack. What needs to change? So my clean keeps landing too low on my shoulders. So you're catching that bar here as opposed to on top of your shoulders. Think of the shoulders as a shelf. We want that bar to sit on the shelf as we get into the bottom. Clean. This client or this person is saying that that bar is coming and they're catching it quite low on their shoulders. Now, often, there's probably 2 things that we need to look at. And without seeing a video of this lift, we can't 100% confirm what is happening here. But it's probably one of 2 reasons. First reason is that the bar is driven away from you into extension. You're pulling that bar away from you. As you drop into it, that bar is in front of you. So as you drop, it lands low on the shoulders. Okay? The other thing that potentially might well be happening is that you're holding that bar too tight, okay, with the hands. You're not allowing it to fluidly move. And because you're not allowing that bar to fluidly move into your hand and against the shoulders, you're catching it in the hands. The bar is away from you. That's when it gets caught too low, okay? So first thing, are you using hook grip? If you're not, use hook grip. If you are using hook grip, you don't need to squeeze the living daylights out of your thumb. The idea of hook grip is that the thumb is doing all the gripping. Wrap the thumb round, the 2 fingers loosely sit on top. It's not about squeezing the thumb as hard as you can. Allow that to sort of relax in that hand. You want those arms to be nice and relaxed. Any tension in the arms, you're going to end up seeing an early arm pull in that movement. or rigidity as you hit that bottom position. We want to literally hit that bottom and allow that bar to flex into our fingers. If you do, and you still find that it's dropping too low, I wonder whether it's more of a mobility thing. You need to look at improving your thoracic and your lat mobility, okay? Stretching off here and allowing yourself to retract and protract through that mid back. So there's three ways or the three things that I would look at doing to try and fix that issue. Oh my God, I tell you what, it is so hot. I am addicted to it at the moment with iced coffees. I don't think I'm very good at making them though. It's espresso, ice, milk. But I've done it two different ways now. Going a little bit off tangent here, but two different ways. I did ice, poured the espresso over, and then added the milk. Then the other day I did espresso, milk, and then the ice. I was wondering whether putting the espresso over the ice was actually cooling it down too quick and actually making it bitter. But as much as I like coffee, I can't actually tell the difference. But if there is a better way of making making a iced coffee, put it in the comments. Let me know. Next question. I can hit a power snatch fine, but the moment I go for a full squat snatch, come on. Who is this person? You know what? A squat snatch, it's one of those things. I flipping hate the term, and I think it's mainly because now it gets used incorrectly. Squat snatch actually came around. Again, I'm going off tangent. It's one of those days, just going to go off tangent. But the squat snatch actually came around because there was two ways of snatching many, many, many years ago. It was a split snatch, so it's very much like a split jerk, but you're catching it in a split snatch, or you do a squat snatch, and they were the two variants of the lifts. Now, squat snatch has just been taken the piss out of because of CrossFit, and they've been more of a way of identifying what is a full snatch and then a power snatch. The thing that I would firstly say here, I can hit a power snatch fine, but the moment I go for a full squat snatch, I fall forward in the hole. So your power snatch should be a derivative, like accessory-based movement, and shouldn't be sort of like tested as a 1 rep max, in my opinion, for the most part, definitely for like an everyday lifter. As soon as we try and get really good at power snatches, you end up being really shit at power snatches because you're pulling that bar high and catching high. The one way I teach a power snatch, because power snatches are really, really good, it creates rigidity in that turnover, okay? So if we think of the snatch, you've got the peak height of the bar and the peak height of the bar, the highest point that we pull it to, and then the lowest point we sit into it in a squat snatch. We want that distance to be as close as possible. Now, the bigger the distance, the greater chances of instability in that bottom position, because it's like dropping an apple. The bigger the distance, the more speed it picks up, the faster it starts to drop, the heavier it drops at the floor. And that's what's happening on the barbell. So a power snatch is really good at trying to tighten these lines up and actually stop that movement as soon as we hit a turnover. But you don't get good at it by just pulling the bar high, okay? So I always coach a power snatch as a snatch, but I want the athlete to stay just above parallel. And that is literally it. Now, what I firstly say here is, are you finding that you're doing more power snatches in the week than you are snatches or squat snatches? If so, change that around. Literally forget power snatches even exist and just get really, really good at snatches. If you are finding that you are dropping it forwards, now the thing is that there's so many reasons why you're dropping it forwards. It could well be that you are receiving that bar passively, okay? So, and if your power snatch is higher than your snatch, you probably are, because you're used to pulling and stopping that bar. And then all of a sudden you go into a full snatch and you're passively just sort of catching that bar here, okay? Overhead, catch it, it rolls forward, you let go, okay? Now, it all sort of links back to basically what I've just said. The greater the drop displacement, the peak height to the lowest point of fixation, the higher chances of you dropping it forwards, especially if you're passively just holding that bar in that lockout. Now, as you hit the bottom of the snatch, we want to try and think about it very much like the ceiling is falling in on you. So you're trying to hold that ceiling up so you're holding that ceiling up. You do not want it to collapse onto you. So you're thinking about trying to squeeze your shoulder blades together, pulling them upwards, shoulders towards ears, elbow crease towards the ceiling, and trying to bend that bar. You're trying to really create large amounts of tension overhead to prevent that bar from moving, okay? The larger the drop displacement, the harder it is to do so, and that's when you start to roll it forwards. Another way that you're dropping it forwards is because You're driving the bar off your hips. The bar is coming away from you. You've caught it in front of you. It ends up dropping to the floor. What we want to try and look for in the snatch is that bar to finish in line with the crown of the head. Okay. So we want to keep it nice and close to our body and punch behind us. But if we're driving it away from the hips into extension, okay, I'm now further away from the bar. As I hit the drop, the bar is towards the front of the head. Really hard for me to stabilize, okay, and I end up dropping it forwards. Probably the two things that I would look at, but we could go nitty gritty, and that could be a 20-minute conversation. It could literally be a whole podcast on its own, because there's loads of other different ways. But reading that question, they're probably your two main issues. Okay, what should I eat before a 6 a.m. lifting session? Or is it better to just train fasted? I had a question like this in one of the last two episodes. Now, it's different amongst lifters. There is no right or wrong. No one can tell you there is a right and a wrong. If they do, stick up your middle finger and tell them to fuck off. You have got to find what works for you. I'm very good at literally waking up at 4:30 in the morning. I could literally have my breakfast and go and train. Okay. I can also train fasted. And I think what I've gained from this over the last few years, when I used to swim, I used to eat a big breakfast before I then got in the pool for 2 hours. Now, just because of time and the sooner I eat, I've broken that fast, and then it's like I'm having my second breakfast probably at like 9 a.m. and I don't really want that at the moment. So I'm able to sort of do it fasted, but you've got to find out what works for you. What is your energy like in the morning? Do you need food? Are you okay without food? Maybe you just need a caffeinated drink. Maybe you don't need a caffeinated drink, but you've got to try and find what works for you. There is no right or wrong there, and no one can tell you that there is. Question number 6. My session fell off from the very first warm-up rep. How do I decide whether to push through or pull back? So your warm-up felt shit. What do I do? The first thing that I think you should do is not rush that warm-up. Slow your warm-up down, get more sets in, and only build when things are feeling good, okay? If things are feeling heavy, like right now, if you're in the UK, I'm filming this on the 27th of May, we've got a bit of a heat wave going on. A lot of my athletes are saying things are feeling heavy and they're struggling to get through their sessions because of the weather. Perfectly valid, okay? This is unprecedented. We don't normally train like this. It's a different stimulus on our body. We're probably a little bit more dehydrated than normal, struggling to sleep at night. So we're a little bit more sort of like tired, restless. Things start to feel heavy within that session. We've got to adapt it there and then. Okay. So first thing, as I just previously said, take more warm-up sets. Try and grease the groove before you try and push up. It's not a race to get to your working set if everything feels shit, because your session then feels shit. So take time for that warm up, like literally grease the groove. The second thing, if there's, parameters, or that there's not parameters, that's the wrong word, but if there's things that could have potentially onset why the session might be a little bit poor, you want to then adjust the workout. So I was actually talking to a client about this morning. So he was programmed 85% for clean and jerk doubles. He did them, but what he sort of found is because it felt so heavy, he actually then started to try and yank that bar, try and move that bar more than he needed to. And so he tried to stick at that percentage. My feedback to that was, we have got to think yes, okay, we want to be hitting these numbers, these weights, and follow exactly what it says. But sometimes it's more about the intended stimulus. Okay. We want a heavy weight to actually test our movement. So it was hot. He's been at work all day. He was tired. Energy was low. He was stuck at that percentage. He's trying to pull that bar. He's trying to muscle that bar around. So that 85% felt more like 90 to 95%. So heavier than what the intended stimulus was. So what I said was just bring that percentage down, scale it back 5 to 10%. And what you'll probably find is that it still feels heavy, but you're now hitting the intended stimulus and you can maintain that good quality movement. Okay. So that's the second thing that I would sort of look at doing. If you've done these two things and things are still feeling pretty shit, I would move on personally. Okay. The worst thing you can do is get yourself in a bit of a rut. Things are feeling shit. You're getting frustrated because it's not moving how you want it to. You're then over trying and things are then starting to fall apart. You may as well leave the complexity of the movement, which is the snatch and clean and jerk, and go to something like just go to like the squats or the pulls of your program, which is literally sit down, stand up, or pull off the floor. Like literally something super simple, and put your effort into that, and then call it a day. Like there's 3 different things there, and I would have them in that order. Question number 7. How do I stop rushing my extension in the snatch? I know I'm doing it, but can't seem to fix it. So it's all about patience. You've got to teach yourself patience. Now, if you can't do it at certain weights, what percentage is that? Okay, so for example, argument's sake, let's just say it's 85%. That's when patience goes out the window. You're now trying to rush that weight. Bring it down to 75 to 80%. Let's build a bigger base there. Now, some of my movements that I would use to teach patience would be like a tempo snatch or a tempo clean, if this is happening clean. That's basically moving as slow as you possibly can until you get to a certain point in that lift. Now, if you're rushing that second phase of that movement, you would probably want to keep it nice and slow until you get to a power position, bars in the hips for the snatch. So slow as you can, weight through the midfoot. As soon as I reach my hips, I'm going to look for that aggressive jump into my movement. If I'm rushing it off the floor and it's pulling me out of line, I might just look to keep that first phase slow, making sure that I'm maintaining my angle until I'm past my knee. As soon as I'm past my knee, that's where I'm rocking it from. So highlight what part of that lift you're rushing because you're trying to get under it or trying to make it move faster, and slow it down. Like literally, that's the best thing. Start to work at lighter weights and master moving slow. Okay, I think it's really easy to go, damn, this is a big weight, I've got to move it faster. Okay, as soon as you go faster, it's almost like driving a car. You're at the traffic lights, you've just squeezed the gas too soon. The engine's now revving. The back end is you're losing the back end of your car. Things are going to start to move pretty shit. So slow it down, feel it, clutch control. Let's really then try and squeeze that acceleration throughout. So it's about teaching yourself patience, and tempo movements are really, really good at that. Oh my God, I'm sweating. Woo! Question number 9. How do I build confidence under the bar in the snatch when heavier weights make me want to bail? So how do I build confidence under the bar in the snatch when heavier weights make me want to bail? So I don't know what your movement's looking like. And the thing that I would always say is where are you lacking confidence? Is it literally overhead? I'd argue as much to sort of say that it probably isn't. It's probably sooner in that movement. What I often have found that when someone has said that I lack confidence overhead, it's not lacking confidence overhead. It's lacking their ability to hit extension, generate force on the bar before they get into that bottom position. It looks like it's that overhead position because you've rushed that extension. You've not reached maximal extension. The bar's not reached its maximal height. The bar is kept lower. It creates a shorter time frame for you to actually then hit that bottom position. So for me, that's confidence within that second phase of that movement. Now, if it's like, no, I'm absolutely fine there. It is literally, I'm struggling to lock out that bar. You need to start looking at movements that are going to promote a strong lockout. It might well be just doing snatch balances. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of a snatch balance. Doesn't necessarily carry over to the snatch, but it does improve your confidence and your ability to feel heavier weights overhead and what you need to do before then controlling into it. So you can probably take more weight over. So if, for example, you can, as a rough guide, you probably want to be able to snatch balance at least 110% of your 1 rep max snatch. Now, I know people that are nowhere near that, and they're really, really good snatchers. But for people that struggle overhead or lack that confidence to drop under a bar, snatch balances are really, really good at that. But again, I revert back to what I previously said, and I'd argue the fact that it's not your lockout. It's somewhere in the other phases of that movement. It occurs a little bit sooner than you actually think. And that's the areas that you've got to sort of work on. And 9 times out of 10, it's this second phase. We lack confidence, things are starting to feel heavy, we then start to rush that lift. And that's the thing that I would look at really assessing. And if it is that, start looking at block snatches. as I said previously, start looking at tempo snatches. Blocks are really good because you get that static position where you start to lack confidence and you just rally that movement. Then from there, then you can progress that into pause snatches. From your pause snatches, it might well be snatch pull into a snatch. And then from there, then go back into just full snatches. So there's loads of different things you can do to build confidence there. But I would probably say it happens sooner than you actually think. Question number 10. Damn, this is the last question. What's the difference between training 3 days a week versus 4 days? Is that extra session actually worth it? I was going to be really smart and say, what's the difference between training 3 days a week versus one session? That's the difference. But I'm not going to be as much a twat as that. So is that session actually worth it? As I've said, if you've listened to this podcast over the last, few months that I've been doing it now nearly 6 months. It all depends on you as an individual. That is literally it. If your schedule only allows you to train 3 days a week, perfect. If your schedule only allows you to train 4 days a week, spot on. You make your 3-day program or your 4-day program work for you. There is not an ideal amount of time to train. Again, it is always down to the quality of the sessions. But if you are doing 4 days, you'll probably find that extra day compared to 3 versus 4 sessions a week would probably have a higher technical focus, or you've got a little bit of a different stimulus compared to what a 3-day program is looking like. So 3 days, it might well be that you're doing, for argument's sake, let's just say snatch session 1, jerk session 2, clean session 3. 4-day program might look for snatch session 1, jerk session 2, power snatches, power clean session 3, and then clean session 4, or something like that. But you'll probably find that you've just got an extra session, so you'll have a higher technical focus around that, or it could well be that you have a specific stimulus for that session. Yeah, there's no right or wrong. You've got to firstly look at what works for you, and 4 sessions just means that you've got another session to do more technical work and potentially, more technical work, faster results. But that's not always the case. You've still got to look at what works for you, because it is always down to the quality versus the quantity of the movement. But yeah, that is the end of the episode 26. Episode 26 of the Snatch Chat podcast. That has flown by. 26 episodes, and we're just going to keep them bloody coming. So as I say, after every single podcast, a little bit of a plug. So feel free to skip if you're not interested in becoming the very best weightlifter that you can be. You're going to stick around. So I have got something called the Uplift Performance Lab. It is a free school community. So people that I coach, people that I don't coach, but want to actually get good at weightlifting, are all within this group. I put out free training and free resources for you to use to actually improve your technique. But I really put this together to actually help people learn and understand the movements. I think knowledge is power. The more knowledge you've got, the better understanding you have, the better understanding you have, the better that you can lift. And that is literally what this community is all about. It's learning around training that is actually going to be able to give you the tools to actually implement your training, make your training better, so you can actually lift the very best that you possibly can. I've added the link below. Join the weightlifting community. Let's all get really fucking good at the snatch and clean and jerk. I'll see you in the next one for episode 27. Fucking